program, it started about 24 years ago, and as I said on several occasions, like last night, I watched this parade of students come through into the main office to pick up rings, and I thought, well, maybe we should make more of a program out of that. And we started with just having some donuts for the seniors in the old dining hall. And then it evolved into what you see this morning. But I'm sure I was thinking about it because in 1995, I was in Houston, Texas, and we had an alumni gathering, and I was toward the top of one of those tall buildings downtown where this reception was, and this very nice older lady came up to me, and she said, I had read about MBA, and my husband died in the last year, but I wanted to come tonight, and I wanted to give you his ring. And so I have this morning, to my wife's chagrin, because she thinks I'm already married to this institution, the 1924 ring. Looks remarkably like the rings they'll get this morning. It has a staying power, doesn't it, and a distinctiveness, the ring. And I'm sure that I thought about doing a ceremony because, I would look at that column occasionally in the Nashville scene that reads, you're so Nashville if. In one year they had, if you still wear your high school ring. And they were certainly talking about a particular school. And then, familiar with Pat Conroy's writings and that opening to his Lord's Discipline where he talks about, wearing the ring. And then the synergy of having this event, the juniors, as I'm sure most of you know, will be able to change out of these comfortable blazers and khaki pants in just a little while because everybody's can wear big red today for the celebration of the state championship. So I've been wearing this hat a lot. In fact, this is only the second occasion publicly, last night being the first, that I've spoken without a hat. My vanity probably is just waning. And we've had a lot of speakers like Adam this morning who graduated in 2002 will speak, but alumni have come back. Deke Sheeran, who is in your class, Adam? Yeah, Deke was in his class. Deke came back to speak. Deke had a wicked sense of humor. He was much smarter than I am. He was in my English class, but I just had a little more experience at the time. But he got up at this podium and he said, when he started his comments, I never thought I'd be speaking at an all-male jewelry breakfast. It was the old Deke coming back. But I hope you'll enjoy this program. It's meant to be a celebration of where they are, but more importantly, a rite of passage to suggest that perhaps there aren't enough rites of passage in society now where you pause and you think about who you are, where you are, what you need to do and why, and for them particularly the next 18 months, how they can take on the mantle of leadership. We think it's important to have a senior make some comments this morning, so please join me in welcoming Senior Richard Cummins.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. 152 classes filled with boys your age have been in your position. The ring you're about to receive not only marks your outstanding hard work, late nights, and countless sacrifices, but it also symbolizes your spot in the MBA fraternity. In just 6 months, my classmates and I will spread out across the globe and begin our journey into adulthood. Even though we may be physically separated by thousands of miles or simply across a dormitory hall, the bonds that we created during our time at MBA will be forever held together by our ring. The ring not only holds together the good times shared among your classmates, but also connects every single other graduate who persevered before you. From firsthand experience, whether it is a restaurant in Nashville, hiking a mountain in Colorado, or sitting on the beach in Florida, you will run into someone who will notice your ring. Whether as someone admiring the distinctiveness of the waffle, or a simple comment like "Roll Red," or even an individual who tells you their entire 6-year journey through their time at MBA, you will be connected to them. As I said earlier, in 6 months, my classmates and I will spread out across the globe as we start our journey into adulthood. With that in mind, in just 1 year, you will be in my position. In just 1 year, almost all of you will know where you want to go to college, or at least have a good idea. In just 18 months, your time on the Hill will also come to a close. While it's hard to see now, you only have so much time left to make memories with the people sitting around you. I encourage every one of you to make the most of every second of every day that you have with your classmates at this special place. I encourage every one of you to reach out and make friends that may not be in your inner circle, as I've been blessed to have a diverse group of friends who are involved with all aspects of life here at MBA. I encourage every one of you to look out for one another and to not let one of your classmates fall behind in his journey to becoming another member on the wall of MBA alumni. Finally, I encourage every one of you not to take any moment for granted, as you only have so much time here left in your journey. As I leave today, I want to share a quotation that becomes more meaningful to me as my time draws closer to an end at MBA. The days are long, but the years are short. Thank you, and congratulations to you guys for making it to this point in your career.
Thank you, Richard. So it's a pleasure each year to have an alum come back, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm very happy that Adam Floyd is here today. Adam was born here in Nashville and graduated, as I referenced, the class of 2002. He then went on to Belmont, and it was interesting just to hear him have some interchange with the few students next to me. Bryson was telling him he was thinking about 3 schools to attend in the United Kingdom, and he immediately said, well, I wish I were more adventurous when I was your age. But you'll see he kind of adopted that spirit of adventure as I finish reading his story. He then went on from Belmont and got a law degree from the University of Arkansas, as well as a MBA. He married his wife and has 2 children. He moved to New York after Belmont and started a music publishing business for a large independent record label, and then moved into marketing for a large pharmaceutical company prior to graduate school, where he was, as I said, the University of Arkansas, and had a dual degree. After that, he became responsible for buying, selling, and developing land across the country for Walmart. His son was born in 2014, and then he and his wife and Franklin moved back to Nashville. While in Nashville, he got involved in a Southeastern investment boutique real estate private equity group, enjoyed learning and developing that role, but decided ultimately to purchase his father's company, the Closet Company, and he's had a lot of fun finding ways to make that company bigger and perhaps more relevant. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you Adam Floyd, MBA Class 2002.
Thank you, Mr. Gioia. I know I speak for the class of 2002 when we say we are tremendously grateful for you. It's an honor to be here today. My opening line was to talk about Deke, my classmate who previously spoke at this event, and how it's an all-male jewelry breakfast, but Mr. Gioia stole that line, so I got a better one. I actually got one that just happened. So as you walk in, you know, I'm 36 years old now, and you meet some of these young men, and they say, yes, sir, hello, yes, sir, oh, yes, sir. I said, guys, God, it's weird. Don't call me sir. That's just odd. And so my friend, my new friend Spencer back here, he's a senior. Spencer said, does it make you feel old? And I said, you don't need to do that. Yeah, it makes me feel old. Good. I was trying to make you feel old. Mission accomplished, Spencer. Guys, I say it's an honor, and it truly is. The gravity of this place is tremendous, and we are the lucky few who get to orbit around it. MBA has a certain momentum to it. It was here well before any of us in this room were born, and it will be here long after all of us pass away. Just think about that for a moment. My love of this place runs as deep as love can, as it does with so many alums. One example of that is my friend Todd Prevost. He graduated, I guess it was 3 years before I did. Todd was a senior linebacker when I was a freshman scrub guard, and my task was often to block Todd. That was an unbelievably violent experience that I encountered over and over and over again. This guy, in my mind, and still is the epitome of tough. Todd made a speech a couple of years ago at this same ceremony, and he began by expressing his love, and he got halfway through maybe his second word and just broke down. That epitomizes the love that this place compels in its alumni, and the love that I'm confident all of you will develop. I'm not a formal person. I tend to be pretty unpolished. This is not going to be a dissertation on symbolism or the burden of privilege. What I wish I was able to do today was speak to myself when I was 17. I can't do that, obviously, so I'm going to talk to you guys. I'm going to tell you 3 things that I know today to be true that I did not know when I was sitting in your shoes. First, what you probably don't understand about this place is that you are getting infused with a character-building substance. I like to think of it as kind of 1,000 tiny little injections you're getting every moment of every day that you are here. It's like a vaccine that targets the character flaws that plague men today in modern society. For some, it begins its work immediately. For most, like me, however, it's carried dormant inside you for years before it begins its work. I can assure you, though, that it will work within you, and that work is transformative. Further along this analogy, those injections are expertly administered by your teachers, your coaches, your advisors, every minute of every day. By the staff as well, who spend time with you here and invest small moments of their time in you that certainly aren't part of their job descriptions. They also come from your parents and the parents of your peers, as they guide you in only ways that parents really can. You receive them from your fellow students as well. When an upperclassman befriends a microbe, or when somebody steps up and sets an example in a situation that you don't quite yet know how to handle. There's also an army of alumni working to ensure that the composition of this vaccine is the most current, effective, and transformative that it can possibly be. We do this gratefully from a sense of obligation to return in fractions the gift we received while we were here in spades. The concept of the formula leads me to kind of the second of the 3 things. The composition of this substance is boiled down into the ideals, not the words of gentleman, scholar, athlete. I didn't understand that when I was in your shoes. It's remained the same for years. When I was a junior, my understanding of these ideals never went past the most basic definitions of the words themselves. A gentleman was someone who opens the door for a lady. A scholar was certainly something I wasn't. An athlete was someone who was good enough to be given playing time on the field. As the years passed, my experiences broadened my understanding of these words, and I began to see them as ideals instead that were to be pursued. I'm going to read a few words that I've found more comprehensively define them in hopes that you might understand them a bit better than I did when I was in your shoes almost 20 years ago. I'm going to put them in reverse order to kind of give a little bit more dramatic effect to the word gentleman. In 1910, Teddy Roosevelt gave probably one of his most widely quoted speeches, an excerpt of which I believe captures the essence of what an athlete truly is. He said, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Finding an adequate definition of a scholar was a bit more difficult, especially for this non-scholar. There's some definitions and attempts to capture the meaning that kind of blur the line between scholar and academic or intellect. So I've kind of distilled what I found to be true in my own experience. A scholar is one who is compelled by a constant thirst for truth, and whose motive is the redemption of himself and of mankind through the acquisition of this truth. Most importantly, he finds humility in its pursuit. And finally, to gentlemen, in 1899, the Baltimore Sun held a contest to see who could best define the concept of a true gentleman. A man named John Walter Wayland won hands down by the following submission: "The true gentleman is the man whose conduct proceeds from goodwill and an acute sense of propriety, and whose self-control is equal to all emergencies, who does not make the poor man conscious of his poverty, the obscure man of his obscurity, or any man of his inferiority or deformity, who is himself humbled if necessity compels him to humble another, who does not flatter wealth, cringe before power, or boast of his own possessions or achievements, who speaks with frankness, but always with sincerity and sympathy, whose deed follows his word, who thinks of the rights and feelings of others rather than his own, and who appears well in any company, a man with whom honor is sacred and virtue safe." You see, guys, these are not just words, but the embodiment of ideals that make up an entire code of conduct. It's an elegant formula you've been injected with, a very simple set of guidelines that, if you choose to pursue them, will without a doubt lead to an incredibly profound, fulfilling, and meaningful life. Those alums who did live in pursuit of these ideals that have passed on, I am absolutely certain, give tremendous credit to this place for their peace at the end from a life well lived. That gets me to the third and final thing that I know now that I did not know when I was in your shoes. A lot of these rings end up being buried with the men who wore them. I imagine there are probably thousands of rings in caskets all over this country, probably the world. That is no small thing. One case I know of, one example of this is my classmate and best friend, Matt Hill. He passed away just over a year after receiving his ring. Matt was proud to wear it, and Matt still wears it today. I would give anything to know what this ring means to Matt. I'm not sure what it does mean to him or what it meant to him, but I know what it meant to me. His ring represents the gift of a great friend I was fortunate to have while I was here. Another example is my grandfather, W.O. Floyd. He did not attend MBA, but his son, my father, Frank, did. I never knew W.O. He died long before I was born. When he died, my dad, Frank, a recent graduate, placed his ring in my grandfather's casket. My dad and I have not really talked about why he did it. Like many fathers and sons, our conversations, are difficult when they try to achieve some substance. I imagine, though, and have heard that W.O., my grandfather, embodied the pursuits previously discussed. And my dad, I am sure, connected these dots, and as an act of gratitude for the gift of this education, sent his own ring down when he buried his father. Men, congratulations from the depths of my heart. Wear it with pride and let it remind you constantly to live a life in pursuit of the ideals MBA sets forth. Perhaps if you do, you'll look back and realize that the credit is due to this place, your parents, your teachers, and to your peers. I bet at that moment you'll also wish to bring this ring down into the earth with you, because this is really truly one of the few things that you can leave behind as a legacy and also take with you when you go. Thank you.